So today in my class, we are talking about understanding relations and functions. That's 3-2 in my algebra class. And the essential question is, how do you represent relations and functions? So I've already printed some things off, but if you're in my class, you want to jot these down. So there are three relations we're going to talk about today. A relation can be represented with a graph, with a table, and what's called a map. Now this is a map, and this is really the only one that is new to us probably. So if I have a coordinate pair 1, 3, 1 represents my x value, and it maps it to the 3, which is your y value. In other words, it tells the relationship. So the relationship is from 1 to 3. So if you see your table, again, it's a relationship from the x to the y, a relationship from your graph from x to the y. So that's a relation. In other words, a relationship. Now a function is a special type of relation, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So in order to understand relations, again, you want to make sure you understand that a relation is a set of ordered pairs where x is the input, y is the output value, the domain represents your x values, and the range represents your y values. So if I look at this right here, for example, the given relation shows the number of whole wheat cracker boxes sold and the money earned. Your 1, 2, 3, 4, that is your domain. 4, 8, 12, 16, that is your range. Right here, the directions tell us to make a table with these coordinate pairs, make a graph with these coordinate pairs, and I would like you to make a map. So you can see all the different ways that we can represent a relation. Now I started this one, I've already done those two because I know you know how to do those already. So I started this map. This is your x, you make a box, and then you put your x coordinates here. So see, that's 7, that's 8, and that's 9. Now I stopped right here because I'm going to put in my 10, but you're going to notice that you have another x value that's a 10. You do not write it twice. So I'm going to skip that 10, and I'm going to go on to 11 and 12, and then I'm done. So then what I want to do is I want to relate my x to my y. I want to pair it. So here, 7 pairs with 41. So you draw an arrow towards it. 8 pairs with or relates to 45. 9 relates to 49. 10 relates to 52, but you'll notice that 10 also relates to 53, so you make an arrow to 52 and to 53. 11 relates to 55, and 12 relates to 59. So what I want you to look at next is we have 3 different types of relations, and now we're going to tell whether they are functions or not. And this is how you tell. First of all, I'm going to show you the easiest way, which is by a graph. If you have a graph, you're going to test it to see if it is a function by what's called a vertical line test. So what you do is you pull your pencil all the way across each point. If it touches the point only once, the pencil touches the point only once as it passes through, it's a function. So I would be good here because it only touched once, it only touched once, it only touched once. But once I get to here, this point right here, notice it touches 10 twice. It touches 10 twice at 52 and at 53. So that means it's not a function. Because of this, it's not a function. Because of this, it's not a function. Because of this, it's not a function. So what is the definition of a function? The definition of a function is that there is a 1-to-1 correspondence between the x and the y. Okay, so that's one input value is paired with one output value. So if you notice, 10 corresponds with 52 and 10 corresponds with 53. So even though these are relations, they have a relationship, it is not a function. ION. And that is what a function is. There has to be a 1-to-1 correspondence. One input value corresponds with one output value. So If we look at the next page of our notes, and I'm going to skip down right to here because this is the next one. It already has a table, it has a graph, and it has a map. So the easiest way to look is to look at your x values of your table. If there is no repeating x value, then you know it's a function. So this is actually a function. This is yes, it's a function. Okay, why is it a function? Because every x value is paired with one y value, one unique y value. Same thing here, same thing here. You can check it by looking at the graph by doing the vertical line test. 1, 1, 1. It hits it once as it goes across. There's also a one-to-one correspondence here with the map. I'll tell you that a map is the hardest one to see because sometimes the arrows go here and sometimes the arrows come from the y value, meaning there's more y values. But what you need to understand is the y values can repeat. It is the x values that cannot repeat. So if you take a look at this example that we have on the next page, actually I'm going to go to the your turn real quick, and we're going to check it to see if it's a function by using the vertical line test. So right here as I go through this parabola, it actually only touches once. My pencil only touches one point at a time, which means there's a one-to-one correspondence. A lot of kids get a little confused about those arrows, and they think, yeah, but that goes straight up. And it actually doesn't. With a parabola, it continues to get wider and wider, in other words, going out. And if it keeps going out, then there's going to be a one-to-one correspondence. It's only going to touch my pencil once as it goes through here. Now if you look at example 7, instantly you can see if you make a line for where your pencil is, it's going to touch it here and here at the same time. It's going to touch it here and here at the same time. So this one is not a function, and this one is. Next page. You have to, for your homework, you have to write it as a table, make a graph, and you're also going to have to write it as a map. And then you're also going to have to tell whether it is a function or not. So that's basically what your homework is. Now there's one more part of your homework that I want to turn to. And that is something like question 9. Now this is a homework question. I'm just going over a couple homework questions here. So number 9, a person can burn about 6 calories per minute cycling. Let X represent the number of minutes biked and Y represent the number of calories burned. Create a mapping diagram to show the number of calories burned by bicycling 60, 120, 180, and 240 minutes. The directions at the top of the page say state the domain and the range of the relation, interpret the context, and then explain if it's a function. So 3 things. So we know how to make a map now. So let's do that first. If it's 6 calories per minute, so these are my minutes, so it's 60, 120, 180, and 240. 60 calories per minute, I'm sorry, 6 calories per minute, so we're going to take 6 times 60, so that's 360. Then we're going to take 120 times 6, which is 720, and then 180 times 6, which I can't remember what it is. So I'm going to quick look. 1,080, and then 240 times 6 is 1,440. So 60 pairs with 360, 120 pairs with 720, 180 pairs with 1,080, and so on. It's a one-to-one correspondence. You can see that. So we know it's a function. So yes, it's a function. But now we have to give the domain and the range. So I need to show you how to write the domain and the range. So the domain you write like this: domain, colon, and I need a pretty little set. Doesn't have to look as pretty as mine, but try to get it there. The domain are your x values. So these are your x values. You can see it by your paragraph, or you can look in your map. And this is your x and this is your y. So your domain is 60, 120, 180, and 240. And that's how you do the domain. Your range is your colon, make a set, and it's 360, 720, 1080, and 1440 with a set at the end. And that's how you make a domain and a range. Remember, your domain is your x value, your range is your y value. Now the last bit of information that we have to do is interpret the context. So we've done the domain and range, and we've explained whether it's a function. So interpreting the context. Interpreting the context just means telling what the value of x represents and what the value of y represents. So the value of x represents minutes that have gone by, and calories that are burned. So basically it's just saying that it's comparing the number of calories you burn to the number of minutes that have you've cycled. So that's what you would write here, is you would say minutes biked and calories burned. So that's how you do your homework. Good luck.